I just believed a lot of things I read that you needed to have 7 to 9 hours. I'm not a 7 to 9 hour person. So that further convinced me something was wrong with me. I did this app that it's really a bad idea, but at the time, it was like estimating how long you would live. And it had this Grim Reaper and it said, Melissa will die of sleep related issues. It's like the worst thing. I have been tracking my sleep on this Fitbit for years of data. And then when I found your material, I quit wearing the Fitbit at night for a while. And then sometimes I just fall asleep and have it on. And so I like baby steps would check it. And guess what? My sleep is exactly the same. My sleep is transformed, yet it's exactly the same. It's just my mind's transformed about it. It's like I listened to a few of the interviews before I started back to work, and I could see myself in so many of those people. It just was a relief and a comfort to know that I wasn't the only one. I wasn't broken. And then I just stuck with what I read in the book. Sleep coach school and your book, set it and forget it. And I read the book while I was on vacation. And I usually don't sleep good on vacation because we have a lot of, like, it's our extended family and kids running around making noise. And I actually started sleeping great on vacation with all the distractions. I got rid of my eye mask and my earplugs and my orange glasses and all of it and just quit taking the meds. And I was just like, I've got a week to get this right before I go back to work. And it worked. Had this long list of rules and it's gone and I have freedom.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to yet another really special Talking Insomnia episode. We have Melissa with us. Welcome, Melissa.
Thanks, Daniel.
So glad to have you here. And you responded to an email where I invited people in the community to be guests. And I'm so thankful that you said you would be a guest here and share your journey. And so, yeah, without further ado, when did you start having troubles with sleep, Melissa?
Well, I've worked night shift off and on for 20 years. And I believe that basically 8 years ago is when I considered that I had a real problem. And it coincided with like menopause and moving and all kinds of things going on. And I was just convinced my sleep was permanently broken from shift work. I tried prescription sleep meds. I took Unisom every night for 8 years, and sometimes it worked and sometimes it didn't. And I understand all of that now, but I was truly convinced that I would never have normal sleep again.
Yeah. So there were multiple things happening in your life. There was stress going on. And was it like, did you did you have nights where you didn't sleep at all, or was it more like you kind of struggled to fall asleep and you woke up at times, or what were the nights like when this all started?
I could always fall asleep. It was staying asleep. And sometimes I would never go back to sleep. So I would sleep maybe 4 hours and then be awake. And I just believed a lot of things I read that you needed to have like 7 to 9 hours. And I'm not a 7 to 9 hour person. And so that further convinced me something was wrong with me. Normal for me is like 5 to 6 hours, honestly, and I'm fine with it. And especially now that I know that it's fine, that it's normal for some people, but I thought I was broken. One thing that really was a shame is I am really interested in my health, right? Because I work in the medical field and you see all this suffering and you're just determined you're going to be healthy. Well, my sleep was the last thing out there that I couldn't manage. Like, I felt like I could never get right, and I did this app that it's really a bad idea, but at the time, I it was like estimating how long you would live, right? and it had this Grim Reaper, and it said, "Melissa will die of sleep-related issues." It's like the worst thing. Like, in hindsight, I know, but after that, I really was like, "Oh my gosh." Now I know that's great if that's the number one reason I'll die because I'm healthy and I don't have sleep issues. But when I read it at first, it was, it just took that fear up about 10 notches. Like, this is really gonna kill me now.
Yeah. You're already concerned about your sleep, and now this app's telling you this is gonna kill you, then, of course, become terrified, and that keeps you awake now.
Right. So, it was just a lot of, like, I believed a lot of things about myself that weren't true. And so sleep, once I found your material and I started applying it, I realized there were so many other things in my life that were revolving around fear that I didn't need to be afraid of. And so it was like someone unlocking the key to a jail cell I had been stuck in fear. Like, I felt like I couldn't do my career anymore. I hadn't worked for 10 months and so many things. I have celiac, and I had all these fears around food that were unfounded just because of that. So, I think I was kinda born like, I remember being a little girl and I was afraid of sirens. I was just a little more fearful than normal, but, right, there's a continuum in life and everything, and some people fall on this end and some on this end, and I was just more towards the fearful side, so I can see now where I just fixated on this sleep, and it became a fear, and I would have never thought it was a fear until I someone ironically on a health forum, because I was freaking out, "I have to go back to work and be on call at night, and I'm so afraid I can't do it, and it's gonna harm my health," and they pointed me to you, to, like, sleep coach school, and your book, Set It and Forget It, and it was like I read the book while I was on vacation, and I usually don't sleep good on vacation because we have a lot of like, it's our extended family and kids running around making noise, and I actually started sleeping great on vacation with all the distractions. I got rid of my eye mask and my earplugs and my orange glasses and all of it and just quit taking the meds, and I was just like, "I've got a week to get this right before I go back to work," and it worked.
That's incredible. We wanna hear more about that part, like the turning point and what other things in your life changed after kinda, getting all this understanding. But if you go back to, the part where things were still difficult, we can say that again, we talked about how something like 8 years ago this all started, and, you had really no struggle with falling asleep, but you woke up and then you couldn't fall back asleep. You thought something, something was maybe broken within you. And it sounds like maybe some of the first things you tried were these over the counter medications like Unisom maybe. And what other things did you try as this was becoming a problem?
So earlier in my life during shift work, I took prescription meds during the day. And so 8 years ago, I was like, those never really helped me. So I just started taking like Unisom and melatonin. And it was hit or miss, but I just took it just in case, right? Like every night of my life. And some nights I slept good and some nights I didn't. Now I understand why. But then during that time, I added the earplugs. I live in the middle of the country, there's no noise, there's barely any light, but I was still like my husband likes to watch TV at night in bed, and so I remember being afraid of light, like, I was literally considering putting red lights in my house for when the sun went down. It all sounds really crazy, but I was, like, obsessed about light for no reason. And so I did the thank goodness I didn't, like, buy any expensive mattresses or change my lights over in my house, but I just started wearing the orange glasses to block all the blue light, I couldn't have that, and it was I wouldn't eat, like, I had to eat by 6 p.m., no later, not a morsel. I could be starving to death, but you couldn't have any food or water because you might have to get up. It was really a prison.
I hear, I hear. And then how about on the social end of things? Did you limit yourself there too, kind of like going out and interacting with the community and events and things of that nature?
Mhm. Yes.
Yeah, yeah, you did that also. Yeah.
It was a very
Yeah.
sad existence for no reason, but I didn't know any better, and
No, I
I thought
hear.
it was gonna kill me, like but no one else seemed to have, like, that many constraints, so I knew deep down, like, it also reinforced there's something wrong with me, no one else has these problems.
And did you ever bring it up to a doctor or talk to a doctor about it?
He prescribed, about 6 months before I found your material, he prescribed a sleeping medicine that's also used for soldiers with PTSD. Like, they did the questionnaire, and I qualified by civilian guidelines and even military guidelines. So it was like, no doubt he considered that I had that, and I started that medicine, and, eh, it really didn't do much, and, I didn't, like, seek out any therapy or anything because I wasn't working, I really couldn't afford to. So, I mean, it was really quite the miracle that I found your material.
Yeah, I'm so glad. Thanks to that person who recommended us on that forum. Thank you to you. Shout out to you. Now, it sounded like for many years you had this like what we call like a truce with sleep, where you're not sleeping well, but you have kind of these rituals and like habits, and when you do all those things, it seems like you're at least kind of okay, kind of like getting by. But then something happened that I think made you decide not to work or forced you not to work. Was it something related to, like, the sleep struggle escalating, or what led to that point where you no longer want to work?
My husband got a job that made the same amount of money, so we just decided that it would probably be better for me to stay at home because he wasn't gonna be able to do the things he normally did, like share in the, household responsibilities. So and it coincided with the time I was ready for a break, and my sleep it was like a truce. I didn't like it, I accepted it. Some nights I had what they call split night, where I'd be up a couple hours and go back to sleep, and when I wasn't working, that was fine, right? Because if I didn't have to get up by a certain time. And then when he lost that job and it was like I didn't have a choice, I had to go back to that work that I didn't think I could do. So I was like, I have to try to get this sleep thing figured out. I felt really pressured about that because before when I was on call in the past, I would be kind of anxious. Oh no, what if I couldn't stand having my ringer on, being woke up by the phone. I mean, I just had a lot of fear around it all that I wouldn't be able to do it or ever sleep if I got woke up by the phone or had to go I couldn't take the sleep medicine because if I got called and had to go out and drive, that wouldn't work, and so I just was like, "I have to get serious. If I'm gonna do this work and I'm gonna need to be on call, I'm gonna have to find a way to be able to do it and still sleep, hopefully, and I'm fine, like, honestly, now, if I have a night that's 4 something hours, I'm perfectly fine. Some nights I'll sleep 7 something, and I'm the same, and some days I feel better when I sleep less, and so I got rid of my I have been tracking my sleep on this Fitbit for years. I have years of data, and then when I found your material, I quit wearing the Fitbit at night for a while. And then sometimes I just fall asleep and have it on. And so I, like, baby steps would check it, and guess what? My sleep is exactly the same. My sleep is transformed yet it's exactly the same. It's just my mind's transformed about it.
That's so powerful. That's so powerful. Well worth like highlighting what you're saying that things have completely changed for you. Yet it sounds like what the Fitbit says is that nothing has changed, but everything has changed because how you think about things, right?
Yeah, and I actually went back like 3 years and looked at my average sleep over the year for 3 years, and it's all within 1 minute of each other. So no matter what I was doing, I was averaging within a minute. So obviously that's just like what my body wants and needs and requires, whatever. It was mind-blowing when I realized there was like literally 1 minute difference.
Yeah. No, that is incredible, and it actually is, very much what, like, studies show as well, that when we are struggling with insomnia and when we're not, the difference isn't actually objectively, there isn't actually a difference. It's really about how the storyline and what we tell ourselves and what we think and project and all these things are what really matters. That's I've never heard that example you shared before. It's so powerful coming from you. Now, I had, maybe one question before we get to sort of like the turning point, how things got easier for you. But during that, those 10 months when your husband was working, but you were not working, did things get easier because you weren't pressured, or was there still a struggle with sleep there?
My sleep was exactly the same, it was still a struggle. Um, it was I thought going into it, "Oh, great, now I won't have any stress and I'll be able to sleep," but I still had stress about sleep. So and I think my mindset hadn't changed. So it didn't really matter, like, whether I was working outside the home or not, I was stressing myself out. I was not being kind to myself. I put pressure on myself, even just doing, like, cooking, household things, whatever, paying the bills, I had to be perfect, and so when I found your material, I realized, like, oh, it's my mindset. I'm just not kind to myself and not just about sleep, just about everything.
Yeah. Well, I want to ask more about that and have the community hear more about that from you. But take us to when you somebody told you on that health forum about sleep coach school and our work. Um, Did you, and you got set it and forget it, it sounds like almost immediately, and did it immediately start clicking with you and kinda pretty quickly lead to change, or did it take a while before you saw changes happening? It sounded like it happened fairly quickly.
It was quickly. Yeah, it was just like I needed to hear that message, and I noticed, like, I listened to quite a few of the interviews before I started back to work, and I could see myself in so many of those people, it just was a relief and a comfort to know that I wasn't the only one, and I wasn't broken, and then I just stuck with what I read in the book, and I was determined. I mean, I know that you most of the people who use your method are probably like me, they're just really driven and determined, and so that's good and bad because we have to learn to relax and not be so driven and determined.
No, it is exactly like that paradox. Like, on one hand, being driven and determined, it's what gets us into trouble in the first place, but on the flip side, that's also what leads you to, like, being able to, like, read a book and understand it and apply it and contextualize it and everything. So it kinda, like, it's what gets us into trouble, but also what gets us out of trouble as well.
Wow.
Now, I was gonna ask you, so yeah, you read the book and then, you were on vacation, but there was a lot of family, but you actually slept easy. Sounds like you pretty quickly let go of a lot of these sleep efforts. No more blocking glasses, no more tracking. And what happened when you started to work? Did you still find that sleep actually happened easy despite being at work, or was it a little wobbly in the beginning?
Um, it still happened easily most nights. it's kind of stressful starting a new job, and like my exercise routine changed and my eating routine changed. Everything changed, but the one thing that didn't really change was the sleep.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Yeah.
I mean,
And
I had nights where my sleep wasn't as great and nights where it was wonderful, and I realized, like, I'm still able to go to work and get the job done, and so over time, like, I just stopped, even connecting sleep to having much meaning at all, really. It's just another thing, like, some days you're hungrier than other, trust your body to do what it needs.
yeah, absolutely. And you said something along the lines, and this might have been just before we started recording, or I think you might have mentioned it during this interview as well. But you said something along the lines of like you felt free, like you're kind of out of a prison. Um, can you explain more about that, or what made you feel like way, or how it expressed itself?
Well, when I read your material and it clicked in my mind that I had been just stressing myself out about the sleep and I didn't have to. And that was so freeing because I've, heard other people say things not about sleep, but about how we get into these rigid, uh, you know, patterns about things and we kinda lock ourselves in, and I had seen myself do that with other various things, like, I'm in my late 50s now, so I can look back on my life and see where I had done that before with other things, and so it was mind-blowing and, like, being set free really when I realized that's what I was doing with sleep because I thought I could control my sleep, and to just hear the words that you can't and the more you try, the more you'll fail was, like, really earth-shattering, honestly. I wish more people knew that.
So do I. And thanks to you being a guest here and more people learning about it, I think more people will little by little will get there. I want to ask you about another topic, which was the self kindness you brought up, which I think is so incredibly helpful. Maybe tell us about what you realized was times where you had not been kind to yourself, and how that shifted, and you became more kind to yourself.
Well, I would do the usual, like, wake up and then immediately be upset at myself, like, "Why can't you fix this?" And then I would the whole time I'm awake, I'm, like, having negative emotions and thoughts about what's wrong with me and why can't I solve this, and I could do all these other things in life, yet I can't sleep, and so when I feel like it was getting permission or the idea to just be nice to myself and wake up and enjoy it and think of the positives. I've gotten a lot of things done when I've been awake that I really didn't have time to do otherwise. And so I just shifted my mind to this is a great opportunity. What are a few, like, fun things I might wanna read, or maybe I need to order something that I've been putting off, and, like, one night I was like, "Wow, I got a lot done," and within 2 hours, I was back asleep, and I just consider it now like one of those split nights that happens, and I've read that, like, historically, it's not uncommon for people before modern times to have split nights before, like, the lighting and stuff, so it's probably not anything either now, it's just we don't think of it, and then it doesn't do anyone any good to be mean to themselves about anything, but especially something you really can't control.
100%. Absolutely. And I think maybe one thing I want to ask you is if you could go back in time to when you started having trouble sleeping and tell yourself something, what would you pick?
I would tell myself at that time that there's really a good reason your sleep's, off temporarily, but not to worry about it, it'll get back to normal.
Yeah, that's so nice. And the last question I have, which you've already touched upon this, but I still want to ask you for completion's sake. So I ask everyone the same questions here, um, and that is, have you were there things you learned from going through this struggle with sleep that has helped you in other areas of life?
Yes, my whole life has been transformed, really.
That's incredible. And just so we get a little context, can you maybe add a little to that, or name maybe one thing that has been really helpful?
Yes, I was, certain I had PTSD and I would struggle the rest of my life, and now I feel like I was just extremely fearful of a lot of things I didn't need to be. So I feel like now if I took that test again, I wouldn't qualify for that diagnosis. Um, I haven't gone back to retake it, but I feel like now I'm functioning, at a high level, like, I'm able to do everything that I want and need to do in life. Work, family, friends. I don't I eat as late as I need to. I drink water. I drink coffee. I don't worry about any of those little things. I don't I I wore earplugs for so long that my ear canals were dilated. I haven't touched them. And it's so nice because they would hurt, really. So just so many little things, and I if I feel like exercising in the evening when I get home from work, I do. I just had this long list of rules and it's gone and I have freedom.
That is incredible. That's what I hope for everyone who finds us. So I just want to say, it was amazing talking to you, Melissa. Thanks so much for being a guest, and be in touch.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone. Hi, it's me, Daniel, and I hope the video you just saw brought a ton of value your way. Now, I know insomnia can be so frustrating because it can come and go. If you found that you were doing well thanks to our free content, only to fall back into a struggle, this may be the perfect time for permanent peace. Because when you see what truly led you to those restful nights, you can make them last. You can reconnect with the world, feel like yourself again, and never dread a sleepless night. All you may need is some personalized instruction, and you can find that in our Insomnia Immunity program. If you think this is the time to join, then simply head over to thesleepcoachschool.com, sign up, and we'll see you on the other side.